Welcome back to Tales from the Landlord, a study in how to make money off other people. Now, if you want to own rental properties, the first problem you have to do is to acquire rental properties. And this is not the same as buying a house for yourself. There are special problems with it. Now, when my wife and I got our house, I found a place that had a rental property on the top floor. So that was the first rental unit. But since we were living in the house, it was easy to get a normal mortgage for it, pay a little bit of money down and move in, get the upstairs ready, rent it out, and start making that money. But here's a real problem with banks. If you want to buy a duplex somewhere else that you don't live in, you can't go and get a mortgage for maybe 5% down or 10% down. The bank will call that a non-owner occupied rental. And bam, 25 to 30% down, or they won't even talk to you about it. I tried a bunch of different places. I tried credit unions. I couldn't even get a VA home mortgage because they had the same rules. Non-owner occupied rental, 25% down. You know, the place I'm buying my properties in, it's what used to be a decent area, but that was back in the 70s. Now it's pretty run down. It's not a good area. You can buy a house there for 30, 40, $50,000. And that's what I aim for when I'm buying rental properties for duplexes. Here is the guideline I use. However many units are in the place, how much can I rent each unit for per month? Now, that amount of money over 3 years has to be enough to pay the house off. My first house I got for $40,000, and the rental income from the place is enough to pay it off in 3 years. I make maybe $100 a month on the place. I get the rental incomes. I pay out $1,000 a month on my house payment, about $80 a month for the insurance, and there's not much left over. I am more or less the caretaker of the place, kind of working for free or very nearly so for 3 years. But once it's paid off, I'm not writing $1,000 check every month anymore. It all comes to me. Then I get to smile some more. But anyhow, back to the main subject here. How to get a rental property. Any house you buy, it's going to be at least a few $1,000s down. Then you have to have a couple $1,000s for the closing costs, even to get the place. And then if it needs any kind of repairs, you got to have all that done. And if you're going to go through Section 8 to have the county pay you the rent, they want to do their own inspection. And your local municipality, they'll want to do an occupancy inspection before you can even rent the place out, even as someone who's paying cash. Now, you could probably sneak someone in there paying cash, but that's the official way you're supposed to do it. So that was the big problem I had, and for years it held me up. Yes, I like the idea of the rental properties. I want to get one. I want to make extra money, after the first few years when the house is paid off. But I did not have thousands of dollars down to make the down payment to get things going. So how did I get my first rental property? Well, in my case, I bought a car. I got my Tesla Model 3 back in the spring of 18. Now, how, Tim? Okay, Tim, you bought a car which enabled you to buy a rental property. Yes. How? Well, a Tesla is an EV. And at the time, the government was giving you a $7,500 tax credit when you buy an electric car. So when we did our taxes in the spring of 19, I got a nice check for over $7,000 right there. Hey, you better spend this money wisely. This is your one and only chance to get started in a rental property if you want to do it. Okay. Now, the big problem, as I said before, a bank will call it a non-owner occupied rental. And unless you have 25 or 30% down, they won't even talk to you. So even for a $40,000 house, that's still $12,000 to $15,000, with your closing costs and everything figured in. That's still a lot of money to put down. So what could I do? There was one other option, owner financing. I was able to get a deal through owner financing. A friend of mine who has a bunch of places knew of a place for sale. He talked to them, would you accept owner financing? And he said yes. And owner financing works kind of like this. Let's say, for example, you have a house you want to sell. And I come to you and say, hey, I want to buy your house. Okay, but I'm not going to get a normal mortgage for it. So what's going to happen is I will give you $5,000 down and pay off the house in 3 years. And you say, okay, I say, okay, we all say, okay. We go to the realtor, we get all the legal papers and a whole bunch of paper signing and paying a bunch of fees. I hate that. When you go to a realtor to get all the paperwork process, there's always a fee for something. I hate that word. Fee to show up, fee to write your name, fee to stamp the paper, fee. Oh, I hate fees. But anyhow, it's a full, legal documentation house sale, just as if you bought your house through a bank in a mortgage. And now, if I don't pay this guy his money, I default on the mortgage. He gets his house back. I'm out all the money I've already spent. So it's very important to me to make sure I'm making them payments on time and I'm never late and don't have any excuses. And I've got a perfect payment record so far with just a few payments left to go until that first house is paid off. So he's happy, I'm happy, we're all happy. So if you can get someone to agree to owner financing, you're okay. Think of it as rent to own. I kind of own the place. I run the place. I handle all the renters. I do all the maintenance. I do everything. The guy selling a house, he sits back and he gets $1,000 check every month until the house is paid off. And then I presume we go back and do some more legal realtor paper stamping and signing until it's all finished and complete. So owner financing was my only real option because the banks, they didn't even want to talk about anything. 25% down, 30% down. How about 20%? No. It's a non-owner occupied rental. We're taking a lot of risk. What risk? I already have a house. This guy knows you. You know him. He got referred to me. Do you think I'm going to buy a house and not pay for a thing? Yeah. Oh, that was my headache. Let me see here. What's this say? Bugsy Malone. Hi, how you doing? GD, the myth, the legend, the only loudmouth Tim. That's right, GD. Okay, anyhow, let me think. One other problem I did have one opportunity to buy a house and pay enough. We had enough money at the time to make the bigger down payment, and we went to a guy who's a mortgage broker to do all the paperwork, and he just wanted every piece of paper in the world. What jobs did you have 8 years ago? What are all your tax forms? What are all your W-2s? This and that and everything. And it was a supreme pain getting him every irrelevant piece of paper in the world from 5-6 years ago to make him happy. And then it came to the ultimate screw up. I do my cryptocurrency investing, that. And I had some money on a crypto exchange that I put in to buy some coins when they were really cheap back in 2018. And then like a year or two later, I sold them for a little bit of a profit and I transferred the money to my bank. And that was the screw up because I transferred the money to my bank just as we were about to start doing all this stuff. And he's looking back 90 days in your bank account. And what is this deposit you got for this amount of money from this exchange? And he didn't know anything about cryptocurrency. And, you can't explain it to him in 10 minutes. So I told him, I put some money in a while back. I bought it cheap. I sold it for some more money and I cashed it out to my bank account. Well, where did the money come from? How did you get it? I don't understand. How does this work? I put money in the thing. I bought some coins with money from my paycheck. I waited. The price went up. I sold. I cashed out the money to my bank account. What is so hard to understand about this? Well, yeah, but how did you do? I don't understand. Well, you shouldn't be a mortgage broker. You need to have some understanding of cryptocurrencies in this day and age. It's the way things are going. And ultimately, he couldn't get this through his thick head about the cryptocurrency transaction. And we just said, forget it, kill the whole deal. We're not buying a house. So that was just a month of nonstop headaches. He's not happy with all these papers. I work, my wife works, we got this house. I have a rental property already. You know the guy I know, and he knows you, and we all know each other, and somehow you still think this is a problem. Whatever. I don't want to drag this out too long. So if you want to buy a rental property, the easiest way I found is through owner financing if the seller will agree to take payments for X number of years. And as I said before, my goal is to buy a place where the rental income is enough to pay it off in 3 years. I had a chance to buy another property that was okay, not great, but okay, but it was more expensive. And even with giving the previous owner all of the rent money, it would have taken 5 years to pay it off. No, that's too much money. It would take too long to get it in my name. I'm not doing that. So if you want to buy a 2, 3, or 4 unit house and live in one of the units, that's easy. Go to the bank, get a mortgage, buy the place, you're done. But if you're not going to live in the place, it becomes a non-owner occupied rental, and that's where the problems really begin. If you have enough money to just pay cash for the house, great, no problem, you're set. The next option is you got to have 25 to 30% down plus closing costs to buy it with a normal mortgage. And that's expensive too. And then the best option, well, is what worked for me, was the owner financing. A combination of owner financing and my big tax credit refund from buying my Tesla. That was the one and only way I was able to get started. Then when it came time to buy the second rental property, I had enough money in cash from paychecks, room on the credit cards, and I was able to put the money down, and here you go, and get it going. So getting the financing in place and arranging a mortgage or whatever for a rental property is a real pain. Even in the best way, it's still not as easy as I would like it to be. So that's part 2 of Tales from the Landlord, how to buy a rental property. Have I done yet? I don't know. And I've heard people talk about buying like a full-size one-family house for $200,000, $300,000 and using that as a rental income property. I think that's stupid. Why? It would take so long for that place to pay itself off. It ain't worth it. I go into a lower income area, to put it nicely, buy a place that's cheap, not a piece of junk. I do the work to make it a reasonable place to live, because I was the renter for 20 years and I wouldn't live in a dump either. You get a balance, cheap, needs fixed up, somewhere in the middle there. Find a reasonable place and get it going for yourself. So around here, there's some low income areas. It's easy to do, to find a place that's not too expensive. All right, well, I think that's all for this episode. Stay tuned for more, and we'll talk about more things. There's a lot more to talk about.